It's Milton.
Let's talk about the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the 1993 cult oddity that took two beloved video game plumbers and dropped them into a dystopian sci-fi fever dream. You've heard the jokes, maybe even watched it for nostalgia, but what really went down behind the scenes? From broken bones to drunken confessions, we're diving into 25 wild facts that'll make you see this adaptation in a whole new light. Grab your seats, because this is not the Mushroom Kingdom you remember. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Get out of you, plumber. Trust the fungus.
First ever video game movie. Released in 1993, Super Mario Bros. Was one of the video games that was adapted into a live-action feature film. Nintendo had never licensed its characters for a movie before, making this project a big leap and a big risk. The film followed Mario and Luigi, who were Brooklyn plumbers, and came across a lost dimension that was under the control of humanoid dinosaurs. Although the initial Super Mario games were light-colored, cartoonish, and cheerful, the film took a dark, heavy, and cyberpunk path. The artistic decisions left fans confused, and the film bombed at the box office. Nevertheless, it became a cult classic over time. What matters more is that it initiated a trend of video game adaptations becoming a historical point, even though it faltered. Plot wildly divergent from games. The fans were hit with something completely different when they walked into theaters in 1993 expecting the lighthearted Mushroom Kingdom from the Super Mario games. The movie's backdrop, Dino was a dark and polluted city constructed in another dimension where advanced dinosaurs had adopted human shape. No longer were there floating bricks, colored pipes, and happy landscapes. Instead, there was rusted metal, neon grime, and a poisonous society ruled by King Koopa. The plot follows Mario and Luigi as they try to rescue Princess Daisy, kidnapped due to her mysterious contact with a piece of meteorite, which Koopa requires to merge the dimensions. Instead of Goombas, the audience gets towering, lizard-headed henchmen in trench coats. Instead of magic mushrooms and fire flowers, there were de-evolution guns and fungus-infested city walls. This film adapted the name and casual connections of the video game, but it lacked the essence and the magic of the Mario world. What resulted was a film that shared a title with the beloved franchise, but it felt like something entirely unrelated. Dinosaur bones in Brooklyn. The film starts with excavation being carried out underneath the city by a group of university students in Brooklyn. This includes Daisy, who's a young student of paleontology. In the excavation, they discover dinosaur fossils in the tunnel of a construction site, which is an extraordinary and unexplainable discovery in that area. This discovery attracts unwanted attention. Daisy, who was abandoned as a baby and raised by nuns, carries a strange rock fragment around her neck. She doesn't know it, but the fossil site and her necklace are directly connected. The rock is a fragment of a meteorite that struck Earth millions of years ago. That influence created a division in dimensions. Humans evolved in one dimension, and dinosaurs survived and evolved in the other dimension. Koopa's agents follow Daisy, kidnap her, and accidentally involve Mario and Luigi, who were trying to help her. The dig site becomes the entry point to Dino and sets the story in motion, leading the brothers on an unexpected journey across dimensions. Alternate casting chaos. The studio explored a long list of big-name actors for the roles before Bob Hoskins and Dennis Hopper were cast as Mario and King Koopa. Danny DeVito was the first choice to play Mario, who was also offered the chance to direct the film, but he turned down both. The project's direction wasn't clear enough to secure his interest at that time. Tom Hanks was also briefly attached to play Luigi. However, after a string of box office disappointments, the studio decided he wasn't a strong enough draw and moved on. Ironically, he would become one of the biggest stars in Hollywood just a year later. King Koopa's role was another point of uncertainty. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Michael Keaton were both approached to play the villain. Neither accepted the offer. Eventually, Dennis Hopper was cast and brought his own eccentric spin to the character. The changing cast reflected the larger identity crisis behind the film. With so many directions considered and discarded, the final cast was a result result of last-minute decisions and shifting priorities during pre-production.
Name. Mario.
Mario and Luigi Mario. One of the most talked about lines in the Super Mario Bros. Movie is when the brothers are forced to give their full names to the police. Mario introduces himself as Mario, and Luigi follows up with Luigi Mario. It's played for laughs in the film, but it also unintentionally cemented a piece of strange canon. Before this, the games never confirmed the last names of the characters. Nintendo had simply referred to them as the Mario Brothers, which implied that Mario was either the older brother's first name or their shared last name, but nothing had ever been officially stated. The film took that ambiguity and turned it literal. By making Mario the surname, it clarified the reasoning behind the Mario Brothers title, at least within the movie's logic. The company later acknowledged it in various interviews and media appearances, even though the choice was not made by Nintendo directly. It's a quirky legacy that stuck around, which fans still like to debate and joke about to this day.
Which one of you is Daisy?
Princess Daisy, not Peach. The movie puts Princess Daisy at the center of the story instead of the expected Princess Peach, as she was the more recognizable character from the games, often portrayed as the one Mario saves. However, the filmmakers chose Daisy as the female lead and gave her a much more active role in the film. In the movie, Daisy was abandoned as a baby and raised in the human world, unaware of her origins. The truth is revealed slowly. She turns out to be the daughter of the deposed ruler of a parallel dinosaur dimension, and the small rock she wears around her neck is the last piece of a meteorite that once split the two worlds apart. That fragment becomes the target of King Koopa, who wants to use it to merge dimensions and take control. Mario and Luigi get pulled into the conflict after trying to help her, and much of the film revolves around her past and what it means for both worlds. Daisy is the key to everything happening in the movie. Daisy Hatchling origins. One of the film's earliest and strangest moments is the reveal that Daisy hatched from an egg. This choice ties directly into the movie's central concept, which is a parallel dimension where dinosaurs evolved into humanoid forms instead of going extinct. The opening scenes show a mysterious woman leaving a pod-like object at the steps of a church in Brooklyn. Inside is a large egg, which eventually hatches into a baby girl who is Daisy. The nuns choose to raise her as a normal child, even though they are very shocked to find her, never learning the truth of her origin. Later in the movie, it's revealed that Daisy is the daughter of the exiled queen of Dino Hatton. The egg and the rock she was left with are both pieces of a larger puzzle. The egg confirms her dinosaur lineage, while the meteorite shard becomes the key to reconnecting the two dimensions. The egg scene, while unusual, sets up the film's logic early on. Animatronic Yoshi. In the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Yoshi appears as a small, realistic dinosaur created through animatronics. This version of Yoshi is more grounded in the film's dinosaur-focused world instead of the saddle-wearing character from the games. The animatronic was built by Lightstorm Entertainment, the effects company behind the creatures in Jurassic Park and Terminator 2. The Yoshi puppet stood about 2.5 feet tall and was controlled using cables and remote servos. It could move its eyes, blink, open its mouth, and extend its tongue, which was a complex feat for 1993's practical effects. In the story, Yoshi lives in King Koopa's palace and is treated like a pet. He doesn't speak or carry on conversations, but forms a quiet bond with Princess Daisy. At one point, he even helps her escape by biting Lena, one of Koopa's top enforcers. Yoshi's design reflected the filmmaker's decision to make the world feel darker and more realistic, even if it meant stepping far away from the tone of the games. Dino Hatton, Deevolution guns, super scopes. One of the movie's most memorable pieces of technology is the Deevolution gun, which is a weapon used by King Koopa's forces to regress enemies back to their earlier evolutionary forms. It's how Koopa transforms people into Goombas, his foot soldier enforcers with small heads and hulking bodies. The Deevolution guns were actually modified Nintendo Super Scope accessories, which most viewers didn't realize at that time. The Super Scope was a plastic bazooka-shaped light gun for the Super Nintendo released in 1992. For the film, these toy peripherals were repainted, slightly reshaped, and used as props to tie the movie loosely back to Nintendo hardware. The Deevolution guns are central to Koopa's plans, as he used the technology to maintain control in Dino Hatton and threatened to use it against the human world once the dimensions are merged. These weapons, and the city around them, reflect the film's deeper shift away from fantasy and toward gritty science fiction. Rocket boots, thwomp stompers. Mario and Luigi don't gain jumping powers from mushrooms in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as they are given a pair of rocket-powered boots known as thwomp stompers. These oversized mechanical shoes are one of the first nods to the original game's jumping mechanics, but they're delivered with a sci-fi twist. The boots are introduced in Dino Hatton. They're used more like weapons or gadgets as compared to athletic gear. They launch the wearer several feet into the air once activated, allowing the brothers to clear long distances, escape danger, or surprise enemies. They become essential tools in the brothers' fight against Koopa's forces. The name Thwomp Stompers is a reference to the Thwomp enemies from the games, which are the stone blocks that fall from above. While the design of the boots doesn't resemble Thwomps directly, the reference connects them back to the original source material. These rocket boots are part of the film's larger effort to translate game elements into a grittier, more mechanical world. The result is weirdly memorable, especially in action scenes where the brothers leap across Dino Hatton's chaotic cityscape. Toad as a protest singer. In the film adaptation, Toad is reimagined in a completely different light. He appears as a tall, spiky-haired human street musician instead of being a small, cheerful, mushroom-headed character. He plays a harmonica and sings protest songs criticizing King Koopa's oppressive regime in Dino Hatton. The introduction of Toad occurs early when Mario and Luigi arrive in the city. His music draws a crowd, but also gets him arrested by Koopa's enforcers. He's taken to the de-evolution chamber and transformed into a Goomba, the dinosaur-like foot soldier with a tiny head and massive body. Even after the transformation, Toad retains his gentle character and even manages to keep his ability to play the harmonica. Later in the movie, Goomba Toad proves himself faithful to Daisy and secretly resists his programming by leading Daisy out of the Tower of Koopa. In this adaptation of Toad, there's an element of good despite his changed nature, unlike his counterpart in the game. His inclusion introduces a minor but unforgettable flavor to the world building in Dino Hatton, showing that there is a form of dissent even in the face of Koopa's rule. Bullet bills, bar and ammo. The name Bullet Bill shows up twice in the Super Mario Bros. Movie, though not in the way fans of the games might expect. Shortly after arriving in Dino Hatton, Mario and Luigi crash into a wild nightclub called Bullet Bill. It's crowded, loud, and full of strange characters. The scene acts as one of their first attempts to navigate the underworld of the city and recover the meteorite shard, which is central to the plot. The same name appears again later, this time stamped onto a small cylindrical cartridge. These cartridges are used as fuel for the Thwomp Stomper rocket boots. Before jumping, the brothers load these into the side of the boots to trigger the launch. The branding is clearly visible, connecting it to the bar they visited earlier. These two appearances act as subtle nods to the game's world, even though Bullet Bill is not an actual character in the film. They also indicate how filmmakers can put parts of games into props and settings, even in cases where key aspects of the game have changed. Bob-omb with Reebok shoes. The Super Mario Bros. Movie features an unforgettable appearance from the Bob-omb, which is a wind-up bomb that plays a key role in the final showdown. It's one of the few elements taken directly from the games and kept fairly intact in terms of design and function. Mario uses it as a weapon during the climax, letting it loose inside Koopa's tower while chaos unfolds. What makes this version of the Bob-omb stand out is the fact that it's wearing Reebok sneakers. The camera lingers just long enough on its feet to make the branding noticeable. There is no comment on it in the dialogue, and it's never mentioned again. This moment is one of the film's strangest bits of product placement. The Bob-omb moves slowly and silently while characters react with genuine fear, yet the small shoes give it an oddly playful quality. It's a blink and you'll catch it later detail that adds another layer of weirdness to an already bizarre movie. dancing Goombas. In one of the heavy sequences in the Tower of King Koopa, Mario and Luigi are trapped in an elevator with a number of Goombas. The brothers are attempting to remain in hiding. They're surrounded by enemies who could easily overpower them, but they improvise. Mario nudges one of the Goombas, causing it to move slightly to the elevator music playing in the background. The others also surprisingly follow. The Goombas begin to rock back and forth in rhythm, one by one. Within seconds, the entire group is quietly dancing. The scene is strange and played for comedy. It's never fully explained either. There's no reason given for why these heavily armed guards are so easily distracted or why they enjoy swaying to slow music, but the distraction gives Mario and Luigi a chance to escape unnoticed and continue their mission. It's a brief moment, but one that people remember. Even in a film filled with unusual creative choices, a room full of dancing Goombas stands out as one of the most unexpected. Deleted, alternate, and cliffhanger scenes. The Super Mario Bros. Movie went through major changes during production, and a lot of content never made it into the final cut. Several scenes were filmed and later removed, either for pacing, tone, or because the story kept evolving during editing. These included longer scenes inside Koopa's tower, longer action beats, and more character moments with the Goombas and supporting characters. One of the most important changes involved the film's ending. After defeating King Koopa, Mario and Luigi return to Brooklyn, only for Daisy to burst back into their lives wearing battle gear and claiming she needs their help. The scene is shot like the beginning of a new mission, which clearly sets up a sequel, but no follow-up was ever made despite this setup. The movie's poor box office performance and critical reception ended those plans. A post-credits joke scene was also included, featuring two Japanese businessmen offering to make a video game based on the Super Koopa cousins. Together, these moments show that the filmmakers were thinking beyond a single movie. Production was total chaos. The making of the Super Mario Bros. Movie was marked with confusion from the beginning. The script went through a lot of rewrites to the point that the actors often received new pages just hours before filming. Scenes were shifted or dropped without explanation, and continuity became hard to track. Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, who played Mario and Luigi, have both said that they were often unsure what kind of movie they were even making in the first place. The directing duo, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel, had a unique vision that clashed with what the producers wanted. There were frequent disagreements on set, and the atmosphere was tense. The tone of the film kept shifting, which was sometimes dark and sometimes comedic. This inconsistency is also clear in the final cut. The team had to start all over with the script, and one of the drafts was abandoned and even burned. Working conditions were very chaotic. Crew members spoke of the lack of direction and leadership. It was always an ever-changing shoot, and no one ever really knew what would happen next. Bob Hoskins didn't even know it was a game. Bob Hoskins, who played Mario, famously didn't realize at first that he was starring in a video game movie. When he signed on, the script and production kept things vague, focusing on a sci-fi adventure story. Hoskins later revealed that he only learned Super Mario Bros. Was based on a popular game after his young son excitedly told him. Throughout filming, Hoskins kept his performance grounded in the script's unique take rather than any connection to the game. He saw the character as real people in a strange world instead of the colorful figures the players knew. This approach fits the movie's gritty tone and also contributed to the disconnect fans felt. Hoskins openly expressed frustration with the production's disorganization, but stayed professional. His lack of familiarity with the source material may have helped him bring an honest performance to an otherwise chaotic project. This behind-the-scenes story highlights just how unconventional the film's development was, even for its lead actor. The plumber alert gag. Throughout the movie, there's a recurring joke called the plumber alert, which is a citywide announcement that warns citizens whenever Mario and Luigi are nearby or causing trouble. The alert treats the brothers like public hazards, turning their heroic attempts into a source of panic for the city. These are announcements that can be seen on screens and loudspeakers several times during the film. Each and every time, they remind the viewer that Mario and Luigi are perceived as outsiders in the tough world of Dino Hatton. button. The warnings contribute a sense of humor that shows how much trouble the plumbers create, yet they have good intentions. Though small and easily missed, the plumber alert joke repeats enough to become a recognizable motif, even though small and easily missed. It helps to lighten the movie's otherwise dark tone and is one of the few times the film winks at the audience, injecting humor into serious moments. Animatronic and practical effects mastery. The movie was highly dependent on practical effects and animatronics to give life to its bizarre world. The majority of the creatures were constructed as mechanical puppets that existed in real time as opposed to computer graphics. Yoshi was made with elaborate puppetry as the movements were lifelike, which was also very impressive during that time. Each creature required a team of puppeteers to coordinate blinking, breathing, walking, and basically every movement. The production involved a blend of robotics, animatronic skins, and hand controls, resulting in characters that felt physically present in scenes. It gave the movie a tangible texture that's missing from more modern CGI-heavy films. Even props and background characters were constructed with practical materials. Everything was highly detailed, down to the snarling Goombas to the throne room of Koopa, which added to the rustic, industrial aesthetic of Dino Hatton. One of them was the special effects team, who crammed beyond the limits of the toolset they had available to them in the early 90s, leaving behind images that are ambitious and compelling to this day. Koopa's piano, a deep Easter egg. One of the film's more surprising deep cuts is hidden in plain sight during a scene featuring Koopa at the piano. The brand name engraved on the instrument reads Ludwig von Koopa, if you look closely. It might come across as just an unusual flourish on the surface, but for fans of the original games, it's a layered Easter egg. Ludwig von Koopa is one of Bowser's children in the Super Mario series, himself inspired by the composer Ludwig van Beethoven. The detail is so easy to miss that most viewers probably didn't register it, but it reflects one of the few moments where the film actually tips its hat to the source material. What makes this more interesting is how out of place it feels in a movie that otherwise tosses the game's lore out the window. So much of the film feels like a reinvention that moments like this, which are quiet, specific, and oddly sincere, stand out. Whether it was added by a fan on the production team or just slipped in during set design, this tiny reference is one of the rare places the movie shows its roots. Easter eggs galore. The film tucked away several references for eagle-eyed Nintendo fans, even if it might have strayed far from the cheerful tone of the games. Among the cluttered signs and graffiti in Dino Hatton, viewers can spot nods to other franchises like Star Fox, F-Zero, and Kid Icarus. These are all background details embedded in set dressing and blink-and-miss moments that suggest the production team either had fun sneaking them in or wanted to pay quiet homage to the wider Nintendo universe. For instance, some fans claim to have seen R-Wing scrawled on a wall, while another scene features a bar flyer hinting at a race that evokes F-Zero's futuristic tracks. A bit of lettering tucked away on a storefront supposedly references Kid Icarus. These kinds of inclusions never become central to the story, and most audiences wouldn't catch them without pausing or re-watching. Still, they add texture to the chaotic world building and show that even in a film where so much was improvised or reimagined, some parts of the original DNA was buried in plain sight for the observant to find. Pauline as Brooklyn's mayor. One clever detail that stands out in the movie is that Pauline appears as the mayor of Brooklyn. Longtime Nintendo fans will recognize her as the damsel from the original Donkey Kong arcade game, who is a character often overshadowed by Peach, but undeniably important in the Mario franchise's early roots. In the movie, Pauline is a public-facing authority figure anchoring the news and updating citizens about the city's strange happenings, including reports of missing plumbers and bizarre subterranean findings. While the name Pauline isn't shouted out loud, her character design, hairstyle, and strong on-camera presence make it clear to those familiar with the lore. It's one of those subtle placements that doesn't pull attention away from the main plot and rewards sharp-eyed viewers who know their Mario history. Considering the film came out in the early 90s, which was well before Super Mario Odyssey, which brought Pauline back into the spotlight, this moment reads like an affectionate callback tucked within an otherwise strange adaptation. It's a small but thoughtful Easter egg that ties the movie to its 8-bit beginnings. On-set accident, Hoskins' hand injury. During filming, Bob Hoskins broke his finger in a car door accident while shooting a scene as Mario. He just wrapped his hand in a skin-toned bandage and powered through the rest of the shoot rather than pausing production or calling for a substitute. If you watch closely, you can catch glimpses of it in several scenes, one of many small production quirks hidden in plain sight. This was one of the most visible mishaps on set. Hoskins never made a fuss about it, but years later, he mentioned it in interviews as just one of the many chaotic things he endured while making the movie. That bandaged finger became a symbol of how strange and bumpy the entire production really was. In a film full of animatronic dinosaurs, rocket boots, and surreal sets, it's oddly fitting that one of its most authentic moments was an actor's real-life injury slipping into the final cut. Exploding van, Leguizamo's accident. During one of the difficult shoot days, a driving stunt involving John Leguizamo went unexpectedly off script. He was driving a van while under the influence when he slammed on the brakes unexpectedly. This sudden stop caused the van door to crush Bob Hoskins' hand, resulting in a broken finger, which we just mentioned earlier. What's wild is how quickly the production brushed it off and moved on, almost as if near accidents had become part of the daily rhythm. The atmosphere on set had already been unpredictable, and moments like this only added to the growing sense that anything could happen at any time, because along with the props and costumes, the danger felt improvised too. While the film itself received poor reviews and struggled at the box office, Leguizamo has spoken about the experience with a mix of frustration and fondness. The accident highlights how unpredictable and rough the shoot was, reflecting the troubled nature of the movie's creation behind the scenes. Actors drinking to cope. Both Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo have openly talked about how challenging the Super Mario Bros. Shoot was. To cope with the stress, confusion, and constant rewrites, the two leads and many others on set turned to alcohol during filming, which became a way to manage the tension that came with the production environment. Hoskins himself later confessed that he was frequently drunk on set, trying to blunt the frustration and exhaustion of the unpredictable shoot. Leguizamo has also shared stories about the atmosphere, describing how the cast would drink between takes to keep up with the fast-paced and sometimes confusing schedule. The drinking does shed light on the toll the troubled production took on everyone involved, even if it didn't stop the actors from giving their best performances. The film's legacy reflected the real struggles behind the camera, which were beyond just its story. Marvelous verdict. Who would have thought that a video game adaptation would lead to one of the most chaotic, bizarre, and strangely iconic productions in movie history? Super Mario Bros. May not have been a hit as a film, but its legacy lives on for unexpected reasons. From wild casting choices to real-life injuries and drunken sets, this film is a crash course in what happens when ambition, confusion, and a bit of madness collide. Love it or hate it, Super Mario Bros. Has earned its spot in cinematic folklore. What fact was your favorite? Do let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and stay marvelous.